Well, good evening and welcome from Schlotsky's on 31st Street in Temple. I'm Jamie Garrett, here for a special edition of the Temple High School Football Coaches Show. We've got head coach Mike Spradlin joining us. Gene Pemberton is here with us today, and we've got a full 90 minutes coming your way. We are at Schlotsky's on 31st Street in Temple, and Lindy and the gang here has opened up the doors, well, literally and figuratively, for us to come back here. We're in the back corner if you want to come out. I got a good chunk of the players out here today. We're going to talk to all of them, talk to the coaches about the game coming up Friday, looking back at last Friday's game, of course, as well, the win against Stratford, and looking ahead to the Ridgepoint game on Friday. So we're going to be out here until 6:30, leading right up to the UMHB Coaches Show at 6:30. If you'd like to come out and join us, Lindy has been nice enough to put a Wildcat special out there. If you come in between now and close, you can get free chips and a drink with the purchase of any sandwich. So come out and ask for the Wildcat special by name. And, of course, we're here to talk about the Wildcats. Coach Spradlin, Gene here. It was another big win Friday night. It's one of those things where every win at this point in the season, you start looking back and saying things like, it's been this long since. It's been this long since. And, you know, it's been 1996 since Temple won 2 games in the playoffs and a game Friday at Ridgepoint. Before we look back at last Friday and the win against Stratford, just initial thoughts, Coach Spradlin, on what you see so far from Ridgepoint and what you're going to see Friday.
Well, I mean, Jamie, you know, it's like I've told everybody, we're in a single elimination tournament right now, and the only thing that matters right now is winning. I mean, it's the age-old deal. You know, when you're in district and you're in preseason and all those things, you know, you're building to an end result, and now it's all about, you know, getting the W, and so as you move forward in the tournament, obviously each week half the teams go home, and here we are, 1 of 16 now. You know, you start the season with 255A football teams. There's 2 divisions now, 16 left, and we're one of those teams. And it's a big deal. It's a big win for our kids and a big win for our program in the sense that I know you mentioned the 96 thing. I've had an opportunity to visit some with Coach McQueen. He came and talked to our kids last week. It was really kind of a special moment. I mean, he got pretty emotional, you know, during that time, and honestly, couldn't have said it better than he showed it, if that makes sense. And it was just a real good time for us. Kind of put a visual on it for us. But you know, I've told a lot of people that, you know, maybe now at least we can start talking about that. I mean, we've done something now that quite frankly hadn't happened since, you know, the year most of our seniors were born. So it was a big win for us Friday night. And then now as we look forward, you know, we got a 12-0 football. There's 4 teams. We're a regional semifinalist now. There's only 4 teams left. All 4 of us are, you know, either one loss or no loss teams, and all 4 of us won our districts. All 4 of us were undefeated in our districts. So that's where we're at in the playoffs. That's why they call it playoffs, and that's why it's a tournament, and that's why we're still alive in it, because we've eliminated 2 of those potential winners.
And, of course, each week presents a new interesting thing. You get familiar, even though Temple jumped up to 5A this year, played a lot of unfamiliar teams that either hadn't seen in a while or have never played before. And so that has kind of made this playoff situation and facing teams that you're not used to, and you mentioned this going into the first week, a lot of unfamiliar teams out there. Has the change in districts this year, facing an entire new slate of teams this year, has that kind of helped in this process where you've had to each week get to know somebody completely new for the first time?
Probably so, Jamie. You know, one thing we got this year that's different than any of the previous 3 years is we took everybody's best shot this year. I mean, there's no question that we were, you know, we came in kind of ranked and kind of the odds-on pick to win our district, you know, and things like that. So, you know, we were the team that took that shot. I mean, you could tell it too. I mean, Hutto came to town, and you could tell it'd been building for them. And boy, I'm proud of our kids. We really matched that well. You know, I thought we did a good job of matching everybody's shot and matching everybody's best shot and giving them our best shot. I mean, I thought that was kind of the way it went. So I think what you're saying is right. The unknown kept us focused. And I tell you what, I've never coached a more focused football team than our guys are. I mean, they amaze me week in and week out with their focus on the new opponent. You know, we took the approach, I think I told you last week, we took the approach this year, you know, instead of talking about the whole thing, the whole tournament, so to speak, you know, we looked at just this week. And honestly, you could probably ask our guys right now, who would you play next week if you won? And they probably couldn't tell you because they're only focused this week on Ridgepoint.
And, you know, Gene pointed it out early in the evening on Friday, and you know, nobody knows, you know, like Gene, looking back at the history of Temple, but there seems to be a lot of excitement around the program. What a crowd that showed up Friday night.
Man.
It's just an incredible crowd.
Awesome.
Does that on the road boost you guys as much as it seemed to? I mean, it was just, and I said it was a raucous crowd. They were out there having a good time Friday night.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's the reason why I took a shot here, honestly, and told myself I want to coach it in Temple, Texas. I mean, I really believed from what I knew and what I'd seen. And, of course, I'm not a spring chicken myself. I mean, I've been coaching for a long time, and I was around coaching high school football when Temple was doing some of the things they did, through the 80s and 90s. And I just had this feeling that if we could ever get things rolling, that this place would be pretty special. Man, was I right. I mean, I get chill bumps sitting there talking to you about it. When you look up in the stands, and I mean, we were full the other night. I mean, we've got the home side in Bryan Viking Stadium, and they told me it's the best crowd. I mean, they told me that it was the best crowd they had all year long.
Well, that Bryan representative at the press box, he told me that Bryan High School didn't have that big a crowd this year.
And Bryan was an undefeated team in district.
They were
pretty close. Yeah, I mean, they were district champs, so it's not like it was a 2-8 team that he's talking about. I mean, this is a storied school just like Gene, but yeah, it was a very exciting crowd.
Big deal. And you go back to San Marcos, and you look up over there, and the Consal's got a pretty sparse crowd, and then you look behind us, and I'll tell you, it's motivating. I mean, it's motivating. Sure want them to come out Friday. I mean, it'll be a big day. It's the day after Thanksgiving, and it's kind of an interesting. Chuck Haig told me, and Chuck, I love Chuck. He's got a perspective because he was on that 92. Yeah. He made a comment. He said, okay, here's what's going to happen Friday. I was going to talk to our kids about this tomorrow, but Friday you'll have the Temple fans and you'll have the Ridge Point fans, and he's just going to have people that are going to look at that game the day after Thanksgiving and say, this will be a great game to go to. So that's what kind of starts happening when you get deeper on in the playoffs.
And certainly it's another – it's quite a drive from here, 2.5, 3 hours, but certainly for Temple fans, I think if I had to estimate anyway, I'd say the crowd – if not doubled, came pretty close to it this past week. And I think it kind of goes along with what you had said and what a lot of people were feeling. It's kind of like, this team is good. Just need to get past that first week. Right. Get past that first week, get that win, put that behind you. And from then on out, the weight's off the shoulders. There's no more thinking about what will people say if, it allows the team to be themselves. And as I said to you 3 weeks ago, I think that I still don't think that this team has played its best game. Phenomenal team, but I think the best is still to come because you're still waiting for that complete game. Chad had an incredible game Friday night, I think 5 touchdowns. Excuse me, every game it seems to be somebody different that steps up. Carr didn't have any 90-yarders. We're going to talk about that, make sure we fix that for this week. But no 91, 94-yarders or anything like that. But Chad came out and just handled the defense. And I know that you had said before the previous game, the first week of the playoffs, that you had intended to throw the ball around like you did on Friday night, but it just based on, Carr had 270-something yards, Hatcher had 100-plus yards, Chad 1 carry, 50-plus yards. So, you had to take that when they were offering it. What was it that allowed Chad to have the kind of game that he did, especially early?
Well, it's kind of interesting, Jamie. I mean, you talk about a guy that set the standard. I mean, Jeff Carr now goes out and has 144 yards, and everybody says he has an off night. I mean, that's kind of crazy. But, it's just, I mean, he quietly had almost 100.5, and so we just felt like going in. I mean, we've always been an offense that felt like we're going to take what you give us, and we thought we could get some things, some underneath stuff on the side, with Davion and Aaron and those guys, and then of course Tyler Hannon's tip ball catch was a real motivating moment. That's 2 times I think in the last 3 weeks. I think Tyler's honestly created a play that motivated everybody else on the field. And then I can't tell you enough about how good I thought our defense played. I mean, people are going to say, that Boyd kid's about as special as I've seen. And if you eliminate 5 runs, on the way that happened, I mean, you literally take away 300 yards that he had. He had 5 big, long runs. And the rest of the night, honestly, I thought we played outstanding defense, created some turnovers. Really proud of that last series when the offense went down and took the game back under control, and then the defense went out and held them on 4th down to a big play on 4th down, and then we got to take a knee in the second round. I can't stress enough, style points don't matter in the playoffs. They just don't. It's irrelevant. The only thing that matters is getting to next Monday, and that's what our goal is this week.
Well, certainly had a 42-35 win in the opening week of the season. The next week was the loss to Westlake by 1 point. Since then, I went back and looked at this and mentioned it online on our website, KTMNews.com and K1017FM.com. And I mentioned it then that the Wildcats have not had a game within a single possession since then. Closest game, 9 points, the win over Waco. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I mean, do you look back and wish maybe, man, I wish we had had Chad's had to win it in the end. You know, the teams had to come back and put that final touchdown on the board, whatever it may have been, to extend that out. So you played close games right up to the end. But does taking a knee at the end, I know as a coach that's what you hope for, but looking at the preparation moving forward, is that something you kind of wish you would have had maybe a closer game in there?
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think I'm for. I like taking a knee, man. I think that's a whole lot more fun than grinding one out. But boy, I sure thought our guys. I look back at that final drive and you look at kind of some things that happened. I mean, Jeff made a couple of outstanding runs, and Chris Minter with a great catch. Two of them, I think. You know, Chad did a great job of, moving the ball down the field. Marcus had a big run in there. And then you look up and Travis Locke, who probably played his best football game for us as a football player at Temple High School. So I look at that and I say, well, all those guys are seniors. I mean, they took it. It's not that our junior kids weren't involved in it, but it was like those guys willed, that to happen. And then you go back and you look at the stop, that the defense made. Of course, Clint had another outstanding night. Ty McCorkle, the law firm, we've got them here, Hernandez. So it's just, I mean, I just sense something real special with these guys. We think we're going to win it, Jamie. I'm not going to lie to you, but we also know that it's got to come down to Friday, and we're in good football territory, buddy. I mean, you know that. I mean, it's just this is one of those times when you got to go out and play your best, and you got to be your best because you're going to get everybody's best.
Well, I don't want to just glance over that last drive. I want to talk about that Friday night. You're up 5 points. It's 40-35. The momentum, it seemed like it was back and forth all night, and once again it was kind of back on the other sideline for just a minute, and things are tense. You could feel it. Everybody was kind of tense, at least watching the game, but you never got that feeling with the team, and you mentioned it. Everybody got involved. Chad came out, hit a couple of passes to Minter, a couple of great catches by Minter, by the way. Not easy catches given the angle that he was at and the route he was running. But it's a situation where he got involved, Carr got involved, Hatcher finished off the drive. There are statement games, but I think that was really a statement drive with the season potentially on the line, with the other side having a breakaway threat that could score at any time. That was kind of a statement drive.
I mean, good football teams, they don't think they're going to get beat, and I never one time that was not tense on our sidelines. It really wasn't. There was never this sense of, oh no, they're getting back in. I mean, it's kind of what I'm talking about. When you get into this kind of football now, I mean, Stratford's a team. I know I've tried to. We're not as familiar with them, but Stratford's a team that played in 15 football games last year. I mean, they've won. I guess now 5 out of 7 playoff games in the last 2 years. So their team thought they were going to win. But I can tell you that there was never a sense on our sidelines that we didn't think we were going to win that football game, and that's a good calmness to have, because then when adversity hits, you don't panic. Never hit the panic button. Nobody ever panicked. Nobody went, oh, no. Defense didn't do that, neither did the offense. When you play good football teams, you've got to be prepared to take a shot, and that includes giving a shot and taking one as well. And when you get hit, you've got to be willing to get back up and hit back, and that's what we did.
Well, I would have to say that I personally watching the game, and I watch half as a broadcaster, half as a fan, just kind of, that's the way I look at doing the broadcast. And I could tell from that first pass to Minter that there was nobody more relaxed in the stadium than Chad President, because both those passes are the type of passes where they need to be straight, but you need to have a little bit of touch on them. And anybody out there that's amped up and nervous or panicking is going to overthrow, underthrow, make two perfect throws. And I think after I saw those two plays, those two receptions by Minter, you kind of said, okay, this is a Temple drive here. And that's the thing about Temple is you get the feeling every time you step on the field, the team is a potential one play drive, 3 plays, 4 plays. You can get down the field at any moment in time, and that's certainly comforting on the sideline, whether it's 5 points or 25.
Well, Jamie, I've been coaching a long time, and I've honestly had the opportunity, particularly since I coached with Coach Browse, to have some pretty prolific offense. I mean, the last 7 years, we've only had 1 year that we averaged under 500 yards a game, and this year has been incredible. I mean, our offensive weapons this year are outstanding, and when you look up and we're averaging somewhere around 570 yards a game and almost 50 points a game in 48-minute football, that's pretty special, and we've got some pretty special athletes. I mean, we've got a dual-headed running threat, including maybe three if you want to throw Chad in there. Got guys who can catch the football, but I'm going to tell you, the last 2 years for us, it started with those five guys up front. I mean, they're mean, they're nasty, they play hard, they play physical. Our guys play hard outside. I talked about that last week. I mean, we are a hard-playing, fast-playing football team, and with that sometimes comes some errors and some mistakes. You can't play fast like we play, and move yourself and have people trying to do their job. We don't play careful, and we don't coach careful. I don't want that. I mean, that's why you'll see us sometimes after a penalty, we just try to get lined up and go. I mean, you can't harp on the negative, and we don't do that in practice. We're not going to do it in the game either. And then, of course, I can't say enough defensively this year what Coach Stewart's brought to the table and the aggressiveness that we're playing with. I think he does an awesome job of game planning our opponents. I think Scott does a great job of halftime adjustment. And then our players are doing an awesome job of buying into that, understanding what they're supposed to do, playing intelligently, and taking the bit out of their mouth. We talk about that. You can't let a horse run with a bit in his mouth. You got to let him go and let him run. And he's done a great job doing that. He and our defensive staff have done an awesome job.
Well, we'll talk specifics of what the Wildcats are going to face defensively when we talk to some of the defensive players and Coach Stewart, of course. But just looking at the team as a whole, they've got a stud at running back. It seems like every team's got at least one this time of year. Throwing the ball, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in the postseason, but a pretty good regular season. We'll first look at Ridgepoint, looking at some of the film. What jumps out on you?
Well, Ridgepoint, I mean, they're basically a 3-year varsity school. They remind me a little bit, although not even. I mean, that good grief! I saw Benton Geyer for 3 years in a row in the third round of the playoffs, and they were a school that was kind of moving through. They're just moving through 5A, basically on their way to 6A. Ridgepoint is, and so you've got a team full of guys who they started playing varsity football 3 years ago, and now you have a team full of guys who are 3-year varsity starters. I mean, that's what you have, and so there's a lot of experience on that football team. You can see it. There's no weak links. There's no area you're going to say, well, we'll go attack that. You just got to go out and do what you do, and we got to go be who we are. I mean, we can't do a lot of worrying about Ridgepoint. We got to do a lot. We got to take care of our stuff and be who we are. We don't. As an old coach used to tell me one time, we don't have to walk across the street to bar a cup of sugar either. I mean, we've got enough in our own cupboard, and so we think our guys are very capable of going out and playing awesome and playing great and getting after it. It's going to be a great football game, Jamie. That's where we're at right now. I mean, it's going to be that way. We'll be saying the same thing next week. We'll be saying the same next week, hopefully, and that's the way it works right now.
Well, 2 out of the last 3 opponents you faced have run what, compared to what you see the rest of the season, might be considered a bit of a unique offense. You faced Elgin, of course. They run kind of that wing offense, and then you faced this team last week that they love to run up and run in the I formation, power I, get everybody in tight, get a lot of bodies in there. Had a guy lining up the tight end last week wearing a 70-something number. So you've seen some different looks than what you typically see spreading the ball out nowadays and throwing it around a lot, or like Temple does, running out of the spread. What is that anything that you're going to see here? What kind of offense do they run?
Oh, I think and Scott can expand on it a little bit when you get him here. But they're pretty what I call kind of a normal spread team. I mean, they're going to get in the 2 receiver sets, the 3 receiver sets, 4 receiver sets. They're going to have fullback in the game sometimes. They're going to have 2 backs in the game sometimes. They're going to throw it around. They're going to run it. I mean, they're a spread offense, but they also have the proverbial fullback running game, kind of like we do. They don't. I don't think they use a tight end much. Scott may prove me wrong on that, but I don't remember seeing much of a tight end offense with them. But they're going to spread it around, try to get around to their guys and get around their cats, and they're good up front. They're big up front, and so they're going to try to put pressure on us by handing to that guy and letting him go.
And certainly, something on film now where Rakeem Boyd was able to find some holes in there.
Different deal, though, Jamie. I mean, that was a whole different offense. I mean, that's an old power eye. I mean, I hadn't seen power eye in quite a while. I mean, we literally had the proverbial fullback, 2 fullbacks and tailback, and all those things going on. So it's a little bit different deal. The Boyd kid's a downhill runner. I mean, he's a kid who, you give him that little crease and then he gets it downhill. He's pretty special. He's going to play a lot of football. He looks very NFL-ish to me, and I'm not just saying that. This kid's a little bit different. He's a little bit more of a scat guy. Runs with a little bit of power. He doesn't have the moves that our guy has, but he's got some shake to him, and he's got a little bit of power to him too.
His name's Remus.
Yeah, it is.
And, you know, all these old fans listening to us tonight, only Remus we remember was in Briar Rabbit.
Yes,
and we're fixing to change that Remus this week.
Yeah, averaging 142 yards a game and 13 touchdowns on the year. So
they're doing a good job, Jamie. They are. There's no question about it. And they're feeling good about themselves, but so are we.
Well, we'll talk more about that defense and that offense for Ridge Point coming up here in just a couple of minutes. We'll talk to Coach Stewart. We've got the defensive players here with us. We're going to talk defense with the Temple Wildcats as the Temple High School Football Coaches Show Special Edition continues from Schlotsky's on 31st Street in Temple. Come out and join us. We've got a bit of a party going on here in the back, so come out and hang out with us. We're going to be here until 6:30 this evening. And we've got several special guests.
Yeah, we do. We got a real special one sitting over there, I can tell you that.
You got the 1941 state finalist Wildcat there at Marcin College.
Yes, sir.
He's but 91 years old. So he gets around, I'll tell you that.
The young buck in here this afternoon.
Yeah, and he's 75. I start off slow and then taper off.
All right, well, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We're going to talk defense next with the Temple High School Football Coaches Show live from Schlotsky's on 31st Street in Temple. It's on News Radio 1400 KTEM. News Radio 1400 KTEM. I'm Jamie Garrett. Welcome back from Schlotsky's in Temple on 31st Street. It is the Temple High School Football Coaches Show, the extended 90-minute edition. Don't forget, if you've got fans, alumni, parents, family that may want to listen both tonight and on Friday with a 1:30 pregame, 2 o'clock kickoff, KTEMnews.com is the website, KTEMnews.com. You can get the stream there and listen. We've got people that have listened from as far away as Canada and beyond. To the games on Friday nights, and looking forward to an afternoon game this Friday. And defensive coordinator Scott Stewart joining me. And certainly I would ask if that kind of gets you out of your rhythm and routine a little bit. But of course, it's a holiday week. Everybody's home. Everybody's going to be fat and happy from Thanksgiving. So everybody's kind of out of the routine anyway. What does that do to you when you play 5 hours earlier than you might normally?
Well, what we try to do is we tried to get them up early this week and just kind of get the body clock going a little bit earlier. It's more of an acclimation thing. I don't think there'll be that big of an adjustment. I don't know. We haven't had a 2 o'clock game this season, but in seasons past, we try to, if you can match their clock and start practicing as close to the time as they're going to start moving around, start doing stuff anyway, then, usually there's not that big of an adjustment.
Yeah, and certainly I'm sure the players didn't mind at all on their week off getting up earlier than usual to get acclimated to that earlier start time.
No question.
Now, Coach Stewart, I know you don't want to hear it again. I know you don't want to hear Rakeem Boyd ever again, but let's talk first about the good. 60 yards passing in the game, 4 of 16, hold him to 25% completion. You get the interception, get a turnover early as well on a fumble. So defensively, that helped spark the offense early. That first turnover, Clint Cole with the interception led to the first touchdown of the game. So the offense kind of fed off the defense a little bit, certainly through the passing game. It's not like they didn't have somebody capable. They had a pretty good arm. He was accurate, had a couple of drop balls in the first half, but he had guys stepping up and making some big plays in the secondary.
We did, and I was very proud. I mean, I would like to play Rakeem Boyd next week. I mean, those are the kind of things that I take as a challenge. And the kid had a good night, and I think we figured out the stats. You take away his 5 long runs, and he was almost half of what his game average was. Now, those 5 runs count, and so we got to find a way to fix those kind of things. But I was very proud of our kids. We kind of came up with a different personnel and a different alignment package, and I probably put a little bit too much on their plate. So once we stopped trying to fit it and be cute, then I just got in our base defense and said, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this old-fashioned way. And I thought our kids played hard. I would have gone back and changed a couple things, but I mean, again, that kid had a great night, and bottom line is, and Coach Spradlin's I've tried to learn this from him, is he could have had 7 yards. He's still getting ready for basketball season. So
yeah, absolutely. and you mentioned those big long runs. That's one thing that Temple has done so well this year is I think coming into last night's game, 50-plus yard play on the season. He had a couple on his own, but it just seemed like it was a flash. I didn't see when I look out there. It wasn't like he was bowling over guys and running over guys and making players look bad. It's just he would get a seam and he would be through it and he would be gone.
Right, and they are very good at what they do, and like we talked about last week, what they do is an anomaly nowadays. I couldn't show them the looks, to what they were going to see, and it took us a little bit to adjust. And the problem with the kid of that caliber is, if you wait to make those adjustments too long, he's going to be he's through it and gone before. I told our kids, I was proud of the night we put on. We had 3 fourth down stops, but the only kid I've coached that in my mind is as talented as that kid was Jamal Charles. I coached against him when I was in the Houston area, and he's a special player. And I think he knew we were there. I mean, I know he had a pretty good statistical night, but he was also limping around after the game. I mean, our kids. I mean, we always talk about it. We got tough kids, and they pounded on him when they got the chance. We turned him loose a few too many times.
And you mentioned it's, at this time of the season, Coach Spradlin alluded to it a little bit in the opening segment. It's about surviving. It's about advancing. And sometimes it's about the plays that you do make, not the plays that you don't make. And you can look at some of those longer runs. If we could get the people back in the studio, to flip the switch so that we don't hear the microphone back there, that'd be a big help. But we'll side note there. But you talk about the plays that you did make, and you mentioned the fourth down stops, the interception from Clint Cole early, a turnover with a fumble. Those fourth down stops were huge every time.
Every time, and the last two. I mean, we go up by 5, or they get within 5. We go down. The series before that was a fourth down stop on that 4th and 9. I think Rios batted down a pass to get us the ball back, and then obviously the last drive we made a heck of a play. Clint actually initiated that tackle. He was the first point of contact, and he made Boyd jump out of the way, and then Rios undercut him, and then Quentin Smith spun him around. So
yeah, he went flying.
Yeah, and it was all night long. I mean, you'd think a kid that has 400 yards rushing, you think these guys they're not playing very hard, but our kids play hard. They fly around, and it just again we missed him, or we misfitted few too many times, and he got what he got, but. For the most part, other than those 5 plays, we made him earn every step that he took.
And certainly, if you have that kind of anomaly where somebody has that kind of an eye-popping game statistically, and they have such an impact on the game, the key I would think is battening down the hatches on the other ends. And with so much dedicated to stopping him, all it would have taken in that secondary is 1 or 2 slip-ups, 1 or 2 lapses of concentration, not being in the right place at the right time technique. But I think the secondary played as flawless in the passing game as they have all year, again, against a quarterback that was putting the ball on the money.
Right, and that's Clint's probably our best secondary guy, no matter where we put him, and we moved him to safety to get a little bit more run support. And so we had guys that aren't used to this, starting playing 80 plays a game out there at corner. And so we really put a lot on their plate, and they did a good job.
Was it Grayer on that first drive, I think, that had a tip down the left side?
And that changes. I mean, those guys that pound the ball like that, they're not willing to take an incomplete pass and get what we call behind the stick, 2nd and long, 3rd and long. Excuse me. And what happened was they try to throw one down the field. And what you'll find with those power run offenses is if they connect with that, it changes kind of what you see. If they don't, they kind of get pigeonholed. And they're not willing to take that. They're willing to throw 1 incompletion. A lot of guys aren't willing to throw 2 or 3 incompletions because they just get too far behind the sticks, and then they feel like they're playing catch-up. So, I mean, we made some plays early in the secondary, shoot them away from it. We had 2 turnovers in the first half because they were trying to throw in the ball, and so we kind of got them one-dimensional. And when we did that, too, we loaded the box a little more. And again, by then he had already had 3 long ones, and so when they kind of got one-handed or left-handed, as we'd say, we kind of loaded up the box more, and I thought we did a pretty good job.
Defensive coordinator Scott Stewart joining us. And, Coach, you talk about the players making an impact for you, and I would have to say that aside from maybe Dennis Jordan, who's making a run at Ty McCorkle for the scoring machine on the defensive side of the ball here over the last couple of games, Ty has been just a huge part. He's been there every single game, and he made had a pick 6 week 1. Had another solid week, solid game this past week. Seems like every time you look in the backfield with Ty McCorkle.
Yes, sir. And Ty's done. He's been as solid can be, and we've asked him to kind of change his role. Last year he was an outside backer in a 3-4 system, and I put him as the heartbeat, which I call the Mike backer in a 4-2-5. We talk all the time about he's got to run the box, and he's done a very, very solid job of doing that. And that's not easy to do. It's not. I don't let him, and sometimes much to his dislike, I don't let him tell me what, well, they didn't move over. Well, it's your box. You've got to run it. You're the quarterback of the defense, especially that box. So, I put a lot on his shoulders. I put a lot of pressure on him. I coach and practice with a lot of pressure on him so that the game isn't as exciting, isn't as crazy. And he's done an excellent job all year long.
Now, Ty, when he says pressure, he means yelling, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Ty McCorkle joining us here on the Temple High School Football Coaches Show, live from Schlotsky's on 31st Street in Temple. And obviously a huge start to the playoffs last week. You had the pick six. Great start for you and that defense last week. For a guy like me, look at me. I never scored a touchdown in my life, unless you count NCAA football and the PlayStation at home against the kids. But what is it like to be standing there, the biggest stage? It's the playoffs. It's do or die, and you find yourself in the right place at the right time, not once, but 2 interceptions 2 weeks ago, and one of them returned for a touchdown. It's got to feel like all that hard work in July and August and is paying off now.
Oh yeah. This man right here next to me, he taught me how to not be satisfied with everything. Y'all say that it's a big play that I scored a pick six. Sorry, I'm nervous.
No, it's all right.
But yeah, everybody say that's a good thing to score a pick six, but like I look at it like, I'm just another guy that just scored a pick six. So yeah.
Who was the first person to bring up, whether it was after the game or on the bus ride home or maybe next week at practice watching film, who was the first person to mention to you that the defense pulled even against A&M Consolidated that first week? It was a 14-14 score, even if Chad and Jeff and Marcus don't get on the bus. Did anybody bring that up to you?
Not really.
You got the touchdown. Dennis Jordan got the touchdown. By the way, Coach, I don't know where you've been hiding Dennis all year, but it's good to see him. Seems like every time a big play's out there, 99 or 27's out there. But Ty, this past week, obviously 400-plus yards rushing. You don't see teams that run the ball a lot. Leading into that game, how different was the preparation of what you were going to face, knowing that you're going to be moving forward a lot more than you're moving backwards?
It was big. Man, I had to really get at it. I didn't know really that I was going to face that, Coach Stewart told us in practice, like, he's a big guy. He's going to run through you. I didn't know until when we got to game time. He gave me a big hit, and he told me a couple of times, but hey, I studied him.
And certainly there, you're in the middle. You're one of the two linebackers in the middle. You got the four guys up front. You got five behind you. But I think I mentioned this the last time we talked on the coaches show. Only two of you there in the middle. One of you messes up, you're down 50% at that point in time. So it puts a lot of pressure on you to be in the right place at the right time.
Oh yeah. It gets to the point where if I mess up, then the next guy to me mess up, and if he mess up and I mess up, and then it destroys the whole
spirals.
Yeah.
And you look back at that game last week, and you may have heard about the size, but he had a good chunk of speed as well. Go back into that game and talk about some of those runs. It just seemed like boom, blink of an eye, and you were in pursuit. You haven't had to deal with that all year. When you're over on the sideline, they pull back within 5. What's being said? What kind of adjustments are going on at that point in time? You need to come out and make one or two more defensive stands, and you did just that and held them. But what's the atmosphere like on the sideline when that game's close at the end, and you know that it's going to be down to the offense giving another score, or maybe you got to go back out there if they don't score and keep that guy out of the end zone?
Oh man, Coach Stewart was like, we need to go back to our base defense. You need to press the guard back in where you need to be. You need to just stud up on him. And it was pretty hard because I was limping. I kind of felt bad that I regret it actually. But yeah, man, I kind of did my homework.
So what I'm getting out of this is Coach Stewart is to blame for the first 4 touchdowns or so until he went back to base defense. I think that's good. That's the way it should be. Ty McCorkle joining us here. And Ty, looking ahead at this game against Ridgepoint, you're going to face another tough runner, a different kind of runner, but it's kind of back to the comfort zone a little bit. You've seen a lot of teams like this week that can spread the ball. And, this Temple defense in years past, there's been a lot of people that say, yeah, that offense is great. Yeah, but, and then they bring up the defense. But that has not been the case this year. Even that Austin Westlake game, it was a situation where your backs were against the wall and you had less than half the field to work with most of the night and giving up those 49 points. But since then, was it then that something clicked or was it a different point? You all as a unit seem to be swarming to the ball, being in the right place at the right time. And as I mentioned when I was talking to Coach Stewart a minute ago, anytime there's chaos in the backfield, chances are you're going to be there.
Oh, yes, sir. It goes back to the Westlake game. As in me, I was walking, after play. I wasn't hustling to every play, and it kind of he kind of next day in film, he was like getting on me too. So I had to click on it, hustle to everywhere. So it goes back to the Westlake game.
They say a lot of times that a team will take on the personality of its coach. Is this a team now that is as feisty as Coach Stewart here? Are you guys,
Oh yeah, yeah, it really changed from last year, man. Coach Dunham, don't get me wrong, he was a good coach, but like when Coach Stewart came here, he clicked all of us. You know what I'm saying? It's like reality. You're not gonna get this chance back. You're not gonna get the day back. So you just gotta go by day.
I'm gonna create a little rift in the team here. I'm gonna ask a question. If you had to face Chad President, Jeff Carr, or Marcus Hatcher in a one-on-one situation in the open field, who would you want to tackle least?
Jeff Carr.
Jeff Carr.
Yeah.
All right. He's a little bit too shifty there.
Oh yeah. I mean, kind of got some of that from spring football.
Ty McCorkle joining us. Thank you very much, Ty. I appreciate it. Coach Stewart, the defense as a whole has been fantastic this year. Let's get some other defensive players over here. Let's talk some defense here. Clint Cole joined us earlier this year on the Temple High School Football Coaches Show in the palatial studios of Coach Spradlin's office, and joining us out here today. And Clint, really, you look back to last Friday, you've had a bunch of big interceptions this year, really over the last 4 or 5 games or so. I would say near ball hawk status, the way you've been pulling in those INTs, but certainly jump-starting the offense this past Friday night. Have any of those picks you've had this year been as memorable as the one this past Friday night?
Really, I don't really worry about personal stats. They come if they do, and if they don't, I really don't worry about them.
Well, there was a point midway through the season where the defense was really clicking. You guys were playing extremely well, and you're doing it without the benefit of creating a bunch of turnovers. And since the let's say 7th, 8th game of the season or so, you guys have been able to, you've been in the right spot at the right time, but been able to complete that play and get that turnover. Is that something that's been an emphasis in practice? Completing those plays, not just being a disruption, but creating that turnover and getting the ball back to your offense.
We just after a certain point, because we had many of chances, like many different games, we had a lot of chances that we had our hands on the ball, but we just couldn't take it. So we just started ball drills one day of a week out of a week, and that helped us a lot.
So it is an emphasis that's out there, and there are ways to do that. But when you're on the defensive side of the ball and you're back there, they moved you to safety this week. We're talking the 12th week of the season now. How difficult is it to do a 90-degree turn like that and do something that you haven't been asked to do a whole lot?
It's really not much. I mean, just moving each other around and just trying to do your best. Like, you just really want the next person to be successful, so you have to do whatever you can for your teammates. And so that's why it's not that much for me, because I know I'll have to go out there and do my work, do whatever I have to do for my teammates.
And I will tell you that not many people cerebrally can do what Clint Cole can do. I mean, he's obviously a gifted athlete, but we put a lot of stuff on his plate, and we've asked him to play 2 completely different positions, and he does it, and that's not something he just says for radio. He could care less about individual stats. I mean, the kid loves to play the game. He wants to go out and he wants to win. He wants to make plays. He really truly wants to do it so his teammates can be successful. It's pretty awesome.
I certainly, not only do I appreciate the lack of caring about the stats and putting the team first, that's great. But really, the plays that you've made this year, when you do get the interception, have directly led to success on the offense, whether it's just right play, right time, and they were bound to get out there and score the next play anyway. But it seems like the offense a lot of times feeds on the energy of the defense. You create that turnover or that 3 and out. It seems to sometimes spark the offense. When you are able to get the ball back like that to the offense, it's certainly, statistical stats aside, that's the ultimate goal, is it not? Every time you're out there is to get that ball back to the offense as soon as possible with as little damage as possible. Now, when we talk about the big plays, the last time we talked about Temple holding so many opponents to no 50-yard plays. It's just one of those things that somebody, with a microphone will pick up on and harp on all year. But it really is kind of a big thing to make teams go and earn those touchdowns and make them work downfield without the big play. Is that something that's been an emphasis to you this year?
Probably a little more to myself personally because of it was a pain last year, I think, and so I think that's a personal thing for me.
Just a pride thing more than anything else. Is there one interception? I know it's let me take that off the board as far as interceptions. Is there one play from these last two playoff games that sticks out to you more than another that kind of personifies whether it's you out there or this defense as a whole? Is there one of those plays out there?
I just really think the whole Stratford game. As soon as we got around the backboard, we did some damage, and I like that as a whole team. Because when somebody got there, somebody held them up, and then somebody else took a lick. I mean, it was just really just fighting for each other, and it was just really out there just being meat eaters.
You heard his staff.
Yeah.
The kid got popped on. He was walking funny after the game.
Well, he probably still is, to be completely honest,
yeah.
as Coach Spradlin says as he gets ready for basketball season. But on the defensive side of the ball, they got theirs in chunks at times the other night, but when it was crunch time, I know there's never a moment in doubt for you, but was there a sense of urgency at any point in the game? You don't want to give up a touchdown, period, but at any point in the game, was there that thought of it's now or never?
Not for me. Because I know as soon as their offense gets the ball back, they're going to go score. I have no doubt in my mind about our offense not going to score. And that's why I put so much pressure on my guys. Just as they put pressure on me, we have to get the ball back to them. It's really not just really making big plays or whatever. Just get the ball out of that offensive hand and put it back in ours. That's the main thing.
And on the defensive side of the ball, Friday night in particular, you were asked to go to a different position. You went out to the safety, and you were doing a lot of run supports. Do you like that? I mean, I know that everybody loves to hit. I know that defensive backs love to get down there and get that pass breakup. What do you like more? I mean, in a game where you're going to see 30, 35 rushing attempts, or do you like being challenged 30, 40, 50 times a game through the air?
Really, I have a happy medium about that, because I would love to get in the box and go to work. If I was a linebacker, I would like that, and I like being outside. It's just something that is really just playing the game I just really like. I could play anywhere, truthfully.
And he can take a 6 or 77-yard kickoff return back, set up another score too.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was another huge point in the game. And with the Temple offense getting the attention they do, with the defense playing as well as they have, it's kind of a forgotten about thing a lot of times. But you've had a couple of big returns this year. From a personal standpoint, is there? If you're going to get that interception that leads to the offense getting the ball back and scoring versus a long kickoff return, do you enjoy one more than the other in terms of your personal preference, the return game, or on the defensive side of the ball?
Not really much, because on kickoff return, I have a lane because those guys, they'll go out there and block. That's the one thing they will do. In the past years, we really didn't have anybody that would like to block, But this year, they'll go out there and block and make a lane for us. But an interception like that's just me making a play. And it's really, I've never just had the chance where I'm seeing all my guys come across and just knock somebody's head off. So, I mean, I just really like them both, same as playing different positions.
And that long return, I went back and I much like you guys watch game film and learn from it and get better, I go back and listen to the game film from my end and try to find ways to not be as bad. But that play in particular, listening to that return took me right back to there. It looked like you were running cone drills at one point in time when you got across the 50-yard line, right, left, right, left, right, left. Some pretty flashy moves out there on that return.
I was just trying to get around, and Jeff, he didn't want to block.
Calling Jeff out. And calling him out, and he gets time to talk later. He'll get the last word on this. All right.
He will.
But I'm sure Jeff's response would be, I would have taken it the final 12 yards. Just saying. Yeah. Clint Cole joining us as we're at the Temple High School Football Coaches Show, live from Schlotsky's on 31st. Clint, I appreciate you joining us here. And we've got plenty more defensive players to go. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back here in just a moment, and we're going to have a law firm on with us. I did not know until this evening that either of the Hernandez twins talked. So this should be interesting. I've never had a conversation with them.
Something's got to give.
Something's got to give. All right, we'll do that coming up here in a second as we continue live from Schlotsky's on 31st Street in Temple. Don't forget, if you come by between now and close at the 31st Street location, you can get free chips and a drink with the purchase of a sandwich. Ask for the Wildcat Special. You got to ask for the special. They'll get you taken care of. We're here at Schlotsky's, more with Coach Stewart, Coach Spradlin. Got some more defensive players coming up, the Hernandez twins, and we got plenty of offense to talk about as well as we continue with the Temple High School Football Coaches Show on News Radio 1400 KTEM. News Radio 1400 KTEM. Welcome back to the Temple High School Football Coaches Show. Jamie Garrett, Gene Pemberton here with me this afternoon as we are live at Schlotsky's on 31st Street in Temple, getting ready for Friday's matchup with Temple Wildcats taking on Ridge Point Panthers out in Cyprus. That game will be at 2 o'clock Friday, 1:30 pregame. We are here with defensive coordinator Scott Stewart, and we've got a tag team effort going on here with our next segment as Sergio and Gilberto Hernandez will be joining us, the Hernandezes, and joining us here. Certainly, when you talk about the success of the defense this year, much like Coach Spradlin will heap praise on the defensive line and where it's the offensive line and where it starts up front. Same goes here. I mean, Ty couldn't do and you know, let me just say, as much as he may yell in practice, he talks about you guys all the time on the coaches show, talking about what a great job you do. Ty couldn't do his thing without you guys, directly from him. So if he's never said anything like that to you before, he said it in our interviews before. But certainly these two guys just tough to move out of the middle there.
They're very tough to move, and they're very tough kids. That's one thing that we don't probably talk about enough. I mean, I'm insane. You know, I talk all the time. They laugh when I talk about yelling, and I talk about going nuts. And you know, I talk to them all the time about I get crazy because I can't go out there and do anything about it. And so they let me be me, and that goes from Clint and Ty and all those kids. They let me be crazy, and they let me do my thing. But they have a maturity that will allow me to do that, and they hear what I'm saying, and we get adjustments made. But, yeah, these two touch hogs up front, man, I couldn't be more proud of two kids coming in. You know, this is a new system. That they are probably two of the very few that kind of got to stay in the same position they were playing, at least in a similar role. We changed some technique stuff, but they're hard to move around. And if you look at them, they're big, strong kids, but they're not 280, 290 pounders. So it gives you a little bit of it's just the toughness of these kids because they're 230 pounds, and we're playing the Round Rocks and the Stratfords of the world that they're 315, 320 across the board, and they're hard to move.
You know, a lot of times you look at the guys in the middle, and it's a lot of size. You mentioned it, not huge, and you're facing off against big guys. As Sergio and Gilberto join us, what do you do when you face off against a guy that outweighs you by 60 pounds? What can you do, Gilberto?
Just be physical, in the middle, and the big is just big.
And big technique, I would imagine, is very important when you're being. See, I was an undersized offensive lineman. And I wasn't good, though, so I can't really offer a lot of advice. But you look at the middle of the defense and the success that the Wildcats had this year on the defensive side of the ball, and it does start up front. A lot of pressure in the defensive backfield or in the offensive backfield from the defensive front line. And usually you'll see 96 or 91 in there causing the problems. We got an echo here, Aaron. I don't know if you're able to take care of that back in the studio or not, but we're getting an echo out here. But you're going to face off against a team on Friday, once again, a team that's averaging 240 yards on the ground, so it's going to be a grounded-out kind of game, facing a different style of attack, but certainly after what you saw last week, you're ready for a little bit of a different change, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Now, which just so I can make sure I got this right, which one is older? That's you, Sergio. By how many minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? And I bet you never hold that over his head, do you, as the older brother? But does that make you the youngest?
Yes, sir.
So you're the youngest in the family. Okay, well, see, that's got its benefits, too, so that helps. I'm just imagining what's going to be going on at the Hernandez house. I see your older brother over here, so I would imagine your mom on Thanksgiving got her work cut out for her, getting a meal done up. Have the coaches talked to you at all about tryptophan, something that's found in turkey that makes you nap? You got to remember that before you leave Friday morning, and that goes for everybody. No turkey on Friday because that'll make you want to take a nap. But up front, defensively, you faced a lot of teams this year that throw the ball around a lot, and it's a thankless job in there in the middle, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And you know, Clint was over here talking about, it's not about the stats, it's not about personal achievement. But every now and again, after you do the grunt work for 47 minutes, every now and again, it'd be nice if Coach Spradlin threw you in a quarterback to down the ball and take a knee, wouldn't it? I mean, just something to be seen out there. Tell me about this season with the changes with Coach Stewart. The defense seems to get better and better and better each week and getting better at the right time. To you, I mean, I know you got your back to the defense for the most part, but going back on film and seeing what you've seen this year, Sergio, what is it about this defense, the other 9 guys out there besides you two, that has been able to turn things around the way they have?
You just play as a team.
Yeah. It's all right. It's 11 guys out there. Your brother over here is having a great time. He'll get his, though. He's got a smile on his face over here. Well, Gilberto, let's ask you, the baby of the family. When Big Brother's out there next to you, is there an unspoken kind of connection? You see if there's brothers on a team, whether it's basketball or football. Is there kind of that unspoken thing where not just because he's your teammate, but because your brother, you just kind of you've got that unspoken communication. You know where he's going to be at all times. No, he's kind of a wild card. Then he's off doing his own thing. So. Is there a player offensively, Gilberto, that you look back at this year that you faced that stands out above others, whether it's a running back that you had to try to tackle or a quarterback you tried to bring down? Is there somebody that stands out or a game that stands out in your mind that, you guys, it took everything you had more?
Maybe the huddle game.
Yeah. Yeah, that the Hippos came in, and that was a big win for you. And they certainly had a quarterback that could scramble around. Does that drive you nuts sometimes, Sergio, when you're trying to chase a guy half your size and a little bit quicker? Do you prefer the run-stopping part of the game, or do you like it when they drop back, throw the ball 35 times, give you a chance to open up those holes for guys like Ty and Quentin to come through?
I think it's run.
You like the run game? So you don't mind when guys like Raheem Boyd line up across and they're coming at you. You like that challenge.
Yes, sir. And
Gilberto, same for you. I see you shaking your head over there. Now, early in the season, there was the Austin Westlake game. You gave up 49 points in that game. I mentioned it earlier. It was a lot of field position stuff. But Coach Stewart has said in interviews time and time again that he kind of made things a little simple for everybody and simplified things. And it really seemed to be a turning point of the year. What, Sergio, moving forward from here, potentially, 4 more games left in the season, and certainly each one bigger than the previous, but is there something to this day that you continue to work on that's just a fundamental part of the game that Coach Stewart harps on, or is it all particularly game planning this time of year?
Game planning?
Yeah, it's no more of the basics. You have it down by now, or it's a lost cause. If you guys... And I've asked the coaches this before, we're playing one-on-one in basketball. Who wins? Gilberto. Sergio, anything to say about that? All right. Well, I'm gonna ask Chad. Chad's a basketball player. I'm gonna ask him which of the two he would take on a pickup team, and we'll get this settled. I'm really creating a lot of strife here between teammates. I don't mean to, but Gilberto and Sergio Hernandez joining us. The law firm. Who came up with the nickname? Was that you, Coach Bradlin? Somewhere along the line.
I think Coach Berna did.
The law firm of Hernandez and Hernandez. I'm sure you've seen some film by now of what you're going to see against Ridge Point. It's a different style of offense, but what you've seen on film, Gilberto, what stands out the most about what this team does well?
I mean, they're not. I don't think they're really physical like Stratford was, but I mean, we still have to go out there and be physical with these guys.
Does that create its own, unique set of challenges? If they're not as big, it's probably a little bit quicker and means you got to be on your toes a little bit.
Sure.
That means no pecan pie on Thursday either. You got to make sure your trim is felt for the game. Hernandez twins joining us. Sergio and Gilberto. I promise I will not call you the twins again. Now that I've got to know your faces and I could probably tell you apart, I'd have a 50-50 shot at it anyway. So you're going to be right half the time. So, Sergio, Gilberto, thank you both so much for joining me. Best of luck Friday, and hope to get you guys back on as we move through the rest of the playoffs here. We are at Schlotsky's, 31st Street in Temple, and it is the Temple High School Football Coaches Show, the extended Coaches Show going until 6:30 tonight. UMHB Coaches Show coming up at 6:30 as their crew. Boy, you talk about distractions and being tested. Certainly the Temple cancellation of a game earlier in the season kind of brought those thoughts flooding back to my mind when UMHB played a 27-hour football game Saturday and Sunday. So always a unique set of challenges coming into every game. And Coach Bradlin joining me again. And Coach, I mentioned a little bit earlier that it seems that every week that somebody else on the offensive side of the ball is shouldering the load and is coming up big. And one consistent in there is that no matter who pops out at you, Jeff Carr is going to have his.
I mean, Jamie, it's crazy, really. And Jeff's, honestly, I mean, he is the best running back I believe I've ever coached. It's just crazy. And then what's really, I've thought about this several times. I mean, Jeff had almost 1,900 yards a year ago. He's got 1,500 plus this year, and he's done that all with a guy running with him, Marcus Hatcher. And Marcus is extremely special. And they're the best 1-2. I mean, I take any year, any time I've ever coached either one of them. I mean, they're special. And what's really kind of made it cool is that there's no rivalry, there's no selfishness. They're the first guys to congratulate each other, when they're coming off the field. But Jeff's got almost 3,000 or got over 3,000 yards rushing for us, and has done that all with a guy behind him that's got 2,000. So I mean, that's pretty crazy when you think about it. That in the last 2 years we've got two backs that have rushed for over 5,000 yards, and I think that makes them special in their own right. Jeff's, I mean, he's the PBA guy, the pretty boy athlete he came up with it, and they've got all that going on. You can't catch him in a phone booth, all those things. You can juke his shadow, all that kind of stuff. He's unbelievable. He really is. And his stop and his acceleration is phenomenal. I mean, he can go from 0 to 60 about as fast as any guy I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, almost as important as that, he can go from 60 to 0 back to 60 again.
Exactly.
I don't know many cars that can do that, that's for sure. And
This
Jeff
car
joining
can.
us now. This car, I didn't even mean to do
can.
that. Very well. You're picking up on that. Jeff, thank you for joining us. I know this is certainly in the top 3 of things you would love to be doing at this moment in time, so I appreciate you taking some time for us. But, one of the things that has been apparent throughout the season is that having that other back in the backfield in Marcus has kind of allowed you to, keep your legs pretty fresh. I mean, heading into the playoffs this year, I don't think, if I had to guess, I would say that this past Friday night's probably one of the games with the most carries we've seen this year. I mean, you've gotten it done with minimal carries. How are you feeling this time of year compared to last year, for example?
Last year, I think I was getting like 18 a game, but during the season, sometimes I was coming out the game with like 10 carries, playing only one half, not really doing that much. So.
Yeah, that's the yin to the yang, I guess you could say, the negative to the positive of a blowout win is that, you sit out for the half that game and people that look at it on paper say, well, he's down from last year. But the truth is, Coach, I don't know if you could even venture a guess as to how many fewer carries he's had this year. But
he's averaging almost 11 yards per carry. I mean, that's insane, really, when you think about it. I mean, and I contend, of course, Jeff, I'll never forget, this is a great moment in my life. But we were in the weight room, I guess it was the second or third game, and he looked at me and he said, "Why do you take me out?" And I said, "I'm not taking you out. I said, I'm keeping you fresh." And I really believe that's kind of part of it. I mean, Jeff went through a little deal with an ankle this year, and we were able to kind of keep him fresh. And I contend that it's a great time right now that we've got guys with fresh legs and ready to go.
Oh, yes. I mean, you look at the way this offense goes, and Jeff, you never know, I guess, going into a night, you may have an inkling of an idea and a clue about it, but we never know, watching the game, who's going to have that big night, who's going to have the bulk of the carries. It was certainly you getting, I had you at 22 carries last week, but I'm always a couple off. But it was a game that I think your biggest carry, your longest carry was 24 yards, so you certainly earned it on Friday night, didn't you? And it's not something that we're used to seeing in that no big 90-yard run, something like that. But you certainly grinded it out on the ground, and that's a different kind of game than you've had this year.
Some games are going to be like that, especially in the playoffs. When guys start keying on you more, and the schemes get a little bit tougher. But sometimes you got to grind it out, stay patient, keep my head right. Never know when you'll pop.
That's one thing that I'll say. Watching you run is the patience that you have running. Allowing your guys to get those blocks because, as Coach said, you're 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye. So what looks like from up in the booth, and I'm sure from the sidelines and everybody watching, is, oh, there's nothing there. And all of a sudden, here comes number 6 through there. So that's certainly something that it's a one-play threat. Whether it's you're at the 4-yard line and you're in 4-yard line at the other end, you know that you've got that potential. But talk about the offensive line, Jeff, because this is it was a question mark coming into the season, at least from those that like to consider themselves experts at following this type of stuff. But they have done a great job, regardless of who's in the backfield, whether it's you, whether it's Marcus, or somebody like Devontae coming in the second half and running the ball. They seem to be making the holes to get you, and that's all you really need is that first block, and then from there you just blow everybody's angles out of the water.
The online has been physical for the past 2 years. They've been physical. All you got to do is create space. When you got good backs like us, all we need is that little crease, and we'll get out of there. We'll make something happen, because that's what good backs do. And, I love them. They're big. Sometimes they're not the biggest, but they get physical, and the defenses know that, and they can compete with anybody.
Now, I'm going to, much like I've done with everybody else here, I'm going to create a little rift and ask you, if there's one guy up on that offensive line, one play, you're on the 1 yard line, you need to score to win the game, final play of the game, you know it's going to be a rush, who do you want to run behind?
I mean, they're all big and nasty, but the craziest, I say Jose, because I know he'll get run past.
He'll get the job done. Well, Jeff Carr, you face a team on Friday afternoon that's given up 14 points or fewer 9 different times this season, so you know that you've got your work cut out from you there. I see a little bit of a spark. What is it about that you've seen on the defense side of the ball that you're going to be dealing with?
I mean, they're tough. I mean, they make plays. They're disciplined, but they never seen an offense like us. And all we got to do is go in there and do our stuff, execute. We can put up points on anybody.
And looking back at the season, I can think of maybe 5 or 6 different times that for a guy that talks as much as I do, that I've been left pretty close to speechless watching a run unfold. Is there any in particular that stand out, a game maybe that stands out, a run that stands out for you?
I'd probably say the huddle run. I had a huddle run that got called back. I thought it was nice, but
yeah, it was.
The more I watch it, it's just what I do. So.
Yeah, you've had a few called back this year due to penalty, but certainly the way they open up holes, and a lot of times it's getting the outside. You know, I said that wide receivers now are basically like a skinny offensive lineman as much as they've got a block now. So.
Jamie, they are, and that's kind of what you and I've talked about this before. I mean, our wide receivers are active. I mean, they're trying to get some things done, and I know Jeff appreciates that. And Mark, I mean, we talk about getting in the way down there and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we've had a couple of holding calls by those guys, but we've also had we're averaging 570 yards a game, and we're certainly we put up over 600 the last 2 weeks, and so they're doing something right too. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying about being careful, about being too careful. And I just, Jeff's talking about that run against Tuttle. It was crazy. And I'll tell you the one that probably got me standing on the sidelines that I'll never forget, the one against Gonzales, when he's just kind of in there, and then I'm like, well, what am I going to call next? And all of a sudden he's scoring. I mean, it was crazy. I thought that was an unbelievable run. The guy's he's a highlight reel. Every run he makes is a highlight. It's been a blast.
And certainly something that we've seen a couple times this season, and it seems like every time it happens with you, good things happen from it out of the passing game. It's something that we haven't seen a ton of passes go to you, but when you do get the ball over on the sideline or wherever it may be, you've got to be almost salivating, because there's no more 250, 270-pound guys in front of you. You just got to get around those skinny guys on the edge. Is that something that you'd like to do more of? Is it getting involved in that passing game?
Of course. I mean, I think I'm a slot, but I'm a great runner, so playing the backfield, and it's easier at slot because all you got to do is get past probably just a linebacker sometimes, or a linebacker in the safety, or just a safety, and it's better than going against like 7 guys in the box, 8 guys in the box.
Well, whether it's 7 or whether it's 1 on the outside, it generally has the same results, and it's not the one the defense is looking for. So, Jeff Carr, number 6 on the field, number 1 in our hearts. I appreciate you taking time, man. Thank you so much. We've got some more that are come up and visit with us here over the final 15 minutes before we get to the UMHB Coaches Show. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Travis Locke had his first carry of the season this past week. Maybe a fumble recovery. It doesn't count as a carry. Is it Travis that had the fumble recovery out there along the O-line? I can't remember.
No, it was. I don't think we did.
There was one that hit the ground in there. I'm not sure, but you've talked all year long, and the press clippings go to the skill guys, but you've said it from the early season on, and it all starts up front. You're a former offensive line coach, and that's where your heart is, and so I would imagine that seeing the guys progress the way they have this year has been great for you, not just as a coach, but on a personal level as well.
Well, Jamie, I did. I played it and I coached it, and I understand it. And I'll tell you this, if you've got great skill kids and you ain't got anybody up front that can get it done, you're not going to have the success that our guys have, and I don't care how good they are. What we've really been pleased with is that we've built our old line basically in the weight room, and our D line too, as well, and our team, honestly, in the weight room. But these guys play a physical type of football, a physical brand of football. Take a lot of pride in doing that, and Travis is certainly one of those guys.
And Travis Locke joining us now. And Travis, I would imagine that for you in the offensive line, it's never been about what they're saying out there and what people are thinking, but about what happens in those 48 minutes on the field on Friday. But as a unit, just talk about the progression throughout the year with those four guys up there with you. It's been a pretty consistent unit up there. I'm sure that helps. To you, what's been the key to the development of this offensive line this year?
Weight room and focus during practice. We really work on technique, and we really focus during practice. I mean,
that's where the money's earned.
Yeah,
is in practice. Is there ever a time where you sit back and think to yourself, why couldn't I have been on a team that runs traditional offense with 30 seconds of rest in between each play? I mean, you exert yourself in the play, you make that block, you get 30, 40 yards downfield, and okay, now you got 3 seconds to rest because we're about to snap the ball. I would imagine that being an offensive lineman now is much of a cardio sport as it is, the physical aspect of the weights and the strength and all that.
Oh yeah, we really get our conditioning in. During practice, we always practice like we're going to play. And
now, is there
Jamie, I might say something on that too. What these guys will probably tell you is that works in their favor. I mean, when you get those defensive guys start getting tired, and they know it, and so it's kind of a time. That's kind of the whole idea is to play it down the field and get those guys in a fatigued moment, and then our guys can take over. We think that's happened quite a bit.
And it's a quick strike offense, so I guess it doesn't hurt so much when you got to snap the ball in 3 seconds, knowing that it's probably the last play you're going to have because Jeff or Marcus or Chad can make that happen at any point in time. And for you, I would imagine that it's got to be somewhat, or anyone on the offensive line is got to be somewhat reassuring to know that you just got to get him for a second, especially with Jeff as quick as he is through there. Just get him for a second, and that big guy's not going to catch up to number 6 or 28.
Yeah, it definitely helps that we just have such a stud running back. And I mean, Marcus too. It really helps that they can get through the hole as fast as they can.
And I've talked to offensive linemen, many times over the last couple of years, and the thing I always hear is when I ask the question, do you like run blocking? Do you like pass blocking? What do you like more? I see a sad look come over that offensive lineman's face, and he says, "I like run blocking more. We don't run much anymore." But this is a running team, and you'll come out and run the ball 40 times if that's what the defense is giving. Do you like that run blocking, that tough, nasty run blocking?
Oh yeah, it's definitely gratifying. I mean, it really makes you feel a type of way when you see a Jeff break open for a 40-yard run or a 50-yard run, and know that you just opened up that hole for him and you grounded it out.
And one of the things that in the 2 years I've been doing this now for Temple High School is Coach Spradlin has talked all the way about strength, conditioning, and that really begins to show this time of year because, and you've seen it all year, to be honest, from the first game on, as other teams tire, Temple is as good, if not better, on snap 80 as they were on snap 1. I would imagine that it's tough to reconcile that when it's 110 degrees outside and you're doing extra laps and you're doing extra cardio and stuff like that to get ready. And I know it's very unmanly to say cardio. I realize that, but
we don't do cardio.
No, conditioning. But that certainly pays off this time of year, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, very much so.
If there's one guy, I've asked a bunch of possibly incendiary questions this evening, so I'll ask a nice one for the offensive line. If you had to block one guy, or let me just ask that differently. If there was one guy on the defensive side of the ball that you didn't want to see lined up across you, whether it's a lineman, and by the way, I do see Sergio over there. He's already looking over here waiting to see what your answer is. But who on that defensive side of the ball would you not want to block?
I'd have to say Daquan Graham.
He's only a sophomore.
Oh, yeah.
He's out there making plays.
He's just a
Well, along the offensive line, I mean, those guys have been, as I mentioned, it's been consistent year-round, and it helps every week when you line up with the same guys on either side of you. Pretty, I don't want to say fortunate because it's all part of the game, but it's nice having that same 5 linemen look out there week after week.
Sure.
Know what the guy's doing next to you. Who is the guy out there along the offensive line that's kind of the? Is that you? Are you the leader? Are you shouting out the protections and all that?
No, not really.
Be Ryland maybe in the middle at the center position. But...
Chad actually makes all our calls. Yeah,
wow, okay.
Our quarterback's kind of in charge of all protection calls.
I've mentioned this to you before, Coach Spradlin. The image long ago used to be, an offensive lineman. He typical athlete, jock. But you guys, you really do have PhDs in football by the time you get done running these kinds of offenses. Because you're up there and you're obviously just listening for Chad to get the play from the sideline and bring it into you. But that's a lot to process in a short amount of time.
We go over it in practice over and over and over again, so it's pretty much
second nature by that point.
You're right. They do have to process it in a hurry. It's literally call gets made, and within about 8 seconds, they got to know exactly what's happening, how the defense is lined up, and ball's going to snap.
And it's bam, bam, bam. And then this past week, I noticed for the first time this season, a lot of looking to the sideline, adjusting plays as you go along. So you've got that. You've got your play, and then all of a sudden you get to change it again, and boom, here you go. So it's a lot above the shoulders as much as I would imagine it is the brawn underneath it.
Sure.
Who is the along those lines, the kind of the scholar of the offensive line? Is there a guy out there that just gets it?
Probably Jose. He's pretty smart guy.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's not a dumb one, so to speak, out there. I can guarantee you that. So, Travis Locke joining us. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We've got one more visit to go this evening as we're on the Temple High School Football Coaches Show. Don't forget, pregame time 1:30 Friday, kickoff at 2 o'clock. The game is in Cypress. We'll have that game on K1017, our sister station, and here on News Radio 1400 KTEM. Also on the Radio Pup app. If you got a tablet or smartphone, you can download it for free. And you listen to the game from wherever your smartphone is, and, of course, online at ktmnews.com. Chad President joining us. And, Chad, third time we've got to visit this year, and first time in a couple of weeks. But, obviously exactly where Temple wants to be. Everybody is healthy. Everybody's 100%. So at this point in time, it's, no excuses. It's time to get out there and do what you've done these past two Friday nights. What are your thoughts from the first two games? You had a blowout in the first week of the playoffs. It was a tighter game last year. Last week where you had to come in late. But certainly you're still here playing this Friday, and that's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And those last two wins, it was a lot of group effort, on the both sides of the ball. This team is special. It's very special. Ever since freshman year, I thought it was going to be special. I thought we were going to have a special ride all our 4 years this year as a Temple Wildcats. I just can't wait to get back out there again.
How do you balance? You mentioned that special feeling, and I think a lot of people probably say the same thing about this team. It's a special team. It's an excellent football team, but so much of it is just the bounce of the ball or anything else. How do you reconcile that special feeling, that feeling like this is it, this is us? We've been waiting 3-4 years to do this. It's us now. With having a sense of urgency and knowing that you've got to play every play like it's your last. Is there a way to balance those two?
Yeah, I think after practice, behind closed doors with, just hanging out with each other, you can just feel it as special, And when it's time to strap it on, strap our helmets on, we know it's going to be special. And we just go out there and play like it's going to be our last play.
And it's certainly not been the last play so far. No. You racked up 58 in the first week, 47 last week, and we talked earlier, Coach Spradlin and I, when we first started back at 5 o'clock about the drive, the final drive in the fourth quarter Friday night. It was a 5-point game, single possession game. In the blink of an eye, it could flip either way. But you come out there, and I mentioned it. You made a couple of what I would call difficult passes, just in the sense that it took a little bit of touch on those passes to Minter. You couldn't just rocket it in there like a flamethrower. And Coach Spradlin said there was never a sense of panic. What did you take an opportunity to say anything to anybody? Was there somebody that was speaking up? Was there somebody that grabbed the helmet and said it's now?
Before every time we go out there, one of the coaches would come down there and like, well, let's go. We got to go. And so, we just take the field and we just execute. To be honest, I didn't even think about how much time was left or, I just, went out there and executed with the rest, with the guys. And, we came out and did what we did.
It's good to see, Minter getting a couple of grabs late in the game. He really is kind of, he does a lot of the grunt work in there play after play.
Yeah, that's a special kid. You don't get a lot of kids that's 6'4", 230, and can block, run, can catch, and do a lot of special things. And that's a special guy.
And he had a big third down pickup there, and you talk about a guy that uses brute force for the bulk of a game to come out and have soft hands like that after manhandling somebody for the last 43 minutes of the game, whatever it may have been. What do you see from Ridge Point? I mentioned it earlier with Jeff that they've only given up 14 points. They've given up 14 points or less 9 different times this season. Where do you see on film that you're going to have some success? Is it running the ball? Do you see some secondary stuff that you might be able to take advantage of?
We're just going to take them what they give us. They can load the box if they want to. They're going to have to stop the pass. They can shorten the box if they want to. They're going to have to start Jeff and Marcus. And so we're just going to take them whatever they give us, and just going to execute to the best of our ability. That's what we do every week.
He had a 50-plus yard run early in the game against A&M Consolidated. Certainly eased a lot of people's anxiety, after the injury late in the season against Waco. But from all indications, 100% and ready to go from here on out.
Yeah, I'm feeling the best I've ever felt. So, I'm ready for anything.
Well, it is Ridge Point Friday, 2 o'clock will be the kickoff, 1:30 pregame time. And I asked early on with Coach Stewart, does that do anything to your preparation, an earlier start time? It'll be the first time you guys have played an afternoon game this season.
Actually, I think we have the advantage because we played on Friday and they played on Saturday, so we got an extra day of rest. And we just got to get the proper rest, go to bed early, wake up, eat a good breakfast, and just come tomorrow morning ready to practice, and then, enjoy Thanksgiving, and then Friday morning it's time to roll.
Strap it on and get ready to go. I don't want to hear about any football players staying up late to watch the Cowboys Thursday night. Everybody get an early bedtime. But you got the game Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving. I would imagine that that'll be weighing on your mind Thursday during the day. But what is this will be your final year living at the house. You're going up to Baylor here in another month or so. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food that Mom or Grandma makes? You have a favorite?
I'm going to say the pecan pie.
Pecan, the good old Texas pecan pie. My specialty is green bean casserole. Out of this world. It's good stuff. But I appreciate your time this year, Chad, not just today, but certainly earlier in the year, the time out of class and everything else to do our weekly show. So I appreciate that. Best of luck Friday, and hopefully we'll have a couple more of these before end of the year.
Thank you.
Chad, President, joining us this evening. And Coach Spradlin, game time Friday. You've heard me mention the defense a couple times for Ridge Point. What do they do so well?
I mean, Jamie, it's kind of what Chad said. I mean, they're aggressive. They fly around a little bit. They're confident in what they do. They don't, he's exactly right. We're going to try to go out and take what they give us and do what we do. And it's just that time of year when, there ain't nothing like practicing on Thanksgiving, man. I mean, I just know that's been one of our goals. We kind of set goals last year, started a year ago with it, and that is we got to get in the tournament. I mean, I've always talked about that. You got to get in this tournament to win the tournament. And the second thing is we want to be a district champion, and the third thing is we want to play on Thanksgiving. And we've accomplished 3 of those goals, and now it's anybody's game. I mean, once you get to Thanksgiving, it can happen to anybody at this point, and we choose to believe it's going to happen to us, man. I mean, that's the way we roll, and that's what we think. We're a confident group. I'm sure they are too, and it'll be a fun day at 2 o'clock on Friday.
All right, that game from Cyprus. We'll have that game here on KTIM coming up here in 1 minute. It is the UMHB Coaches Show. I don't want to take any of John's show, or I'd keep going all night here, having a lot of fun.
Needs his time.
That's right. They're doing great. So thank you so much, Coach Spradlin. My thanks to Coach Stewart, to everybody that came out and joined us today, especially the players. Thank you guys for taking some time out of your day as well. We certainly appreciate it. And as I mentioned, hope to have a couple more of these before we're all said and done. So my thanks to everybody. My thanks to Lindy here at Schlotsky's for allowing us to come out and be here this afternoon, and certainly appreciate the support of the community coming out here and being out here as well.
It's a great place, man. Great place.
Coach Spradlin, thank you so much, and we'll send you now to UMHB Coaches Show on News Radio 1400 KTEM.